Ah, a white-faced ARP Odyssey. One in good working condition. What a pleasure. What a rare thing. I have one of the original ARP Odysseys here. And first, let's look at sample and hold. I have a sample and hold patch set up here, which is really nice and actually simpler than the ARP 2600. What I have here is a sample and hold mixer. And instead of sampling noise, this time we're sampling a sawtooth wave. I'm going to be using VCO1 as a source of a sawtooth wave for a sample and hold. Then I have an LFO up here. This is the sample and hold clock. We're listening only to VCO2, which also happens to be sample and hold. It's being influenced by sample and hold. I'm putting sample and hold control voltage into VCO2. And from the same LFO that's the clock for sample and hold, I'm triggering an ADSR, so we can shape our notes. So here I have the whole thing gated, so I can just roll this up. And what I'm doing here is I'm using a low frequency sawtooth. So the ramp wave goes up like this, and we're going ding, 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 just going down the ramp slow. Have a listen. Change the sample and hold clock, so you're going to hear the difference in frequency. Have a listen to this. So we're walking down the staircase, walking down the sonic staircase, going slowly down a ramp wave and making those little notes. Now what happens when we start changing the frequency of this low frequency oscillator? You're going to start hearing a different pattern. We're playing this with just a little bit of reverb tail added onto it because it's very dry without it. So there's just a little bit of echo. As a matter of fact, here I'm going to take the echo off so you can hear it just the straight output of the ARP Odyssey. But being modern people with modern tastes, we're going to add just a touch of reverb, just so it sounds a little prettier. Now here, we've been running the VCO1, our sound source, we're running at low frequency. Now I'm going to run it much faster at audio frequencies. And I'm going to control it with a keyboard, so we're going to get different patterns. Well, why are these patterns repeating? What's going on? What's happening is instead of sampling noise, we're sampling a periodic waveform. In other words, this waveform repeats over and over again. So we're generating melodic patterns that repeat over and over again. Let's play with some of those patterns. Now you hear that we're going up the melodic staircase. While we're going up, I can easily take us, instead of going up, I can take us going down simply by changing the frequency of LFO1. I, of course, could fool around with this for hours and hours. Well, happens that I happen to like this sort of music. But what I'm trying to say here is with some time and some skill, you can get a wide variety of patterns. And remember I mentioned that we've tied in the keyboard to control this oscillator. So let's see what vocabulary, what harmonic vocabulary can I get by changing notes. What am I doing with my hands? As a human being, I'm hearing duplets and triplets in here. I'm hearing them, whether or not they're really there. We hear our music in twos and threes here in the West. So what I'm doing is giving you, with my hands, I'm giving you how I'd add a rhythm track to this. We go. So what I have here with this is 12, 24, 36, 37. I have 37 keys here on this ARP Odyssey, and what I have now are 37 different patterns that I can get to, and it's almost repeatable. Now what's interesting is because there's enough drift in this is analog electronics, it's not perfectly repeatable. In other words, it's never exactly the same. So if you want that, you have to go to digital stuff. But here we're all analog. So let's listen to a little bit more to the patterns and then try something different. Rhythmically, I can drift against this rhythm. In other words, I don't have to stay lockstep with it. Remember, if we don't base it on clocks, we're free to go with the rhythm. We can anticipate the rhythm. We can lag behind the rhythm. It's a beautiful rhythm. I'm getting the rhythm by just making a tiny little, short little envelope steps. Now, some people may be talking about R2-D2 in the original soundtrack of the first Star Wars movie. What you're listening here is quite actually a fair bit different than that. This is still a sample and hold patch, but we're sampling not noise, but a periodic waveform to get a variety of different sounds and different melodic patterns. I've changed here the frequency. Let's go slower. Here I'm contrasting the sound of the sounding oscillator VCO2, I'm going between sawtooth and square wave. Sawtooth is the even harmonics, square wave are all the odd harmonics. Listen to the difference. And you can see we've had our fun here. Well, this is just touching the surface on one particular type of patch where we are using sample and hold, and the input instead of noise is a periodic waveform, in this case a sawtooth. That makes for a very interesting source. We're applying that sample and hold voltage to an oscillator, and at the same time we're triggering an envelope to make very distinct notes. What if it wasn't distinct notes? Let's hear what it sounds like if it's not enveloped. I'm going to use the filter to make that a little more distinct. I'm pulling down the filter and I'm driving the filter with the same sample and hold voltage. Now, you'll find it a little challenging to play tonal, T-O-N-A-L, tonal instruments with this, but if you ignore the pitches and start playing with the rhythms, that's where the payoff comes. You can do incredible rhythms against sample and hold, using a human drummer or drum machines or what have you. Just don't lock everything in step. Use the fine tuning control of your rhythm to get the things to lock in and then phase against each other, a little slower, a little faster, and so on. It becomes very, very musically interesting. So this is one thing I wanted to show you with this beautiful white-faced ARP Odyssey was a sample and hold patch. Next we're going to take a look at what we can do with two notes at one time.